أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك يا مصرف القلوب صرف قلوبنا على طاعتك آمين رب العالمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a beautiful morning so far in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in terms of our fard salah. We ask of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the ability to be able to take complete benefit from our sitting this morning. Allahumma ameen. We ask of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us whatever He has apportioned for us of rizq this morning in terms of whatever He has in store for us. Allahumma ameen. So I want to start off inshallah by just before I introduce myself and introduce whatever it is that we're going to do, inshallah, I'd like to do a quick exercise, inshallah. So if I can just get an indication from one of the sisters that I'm not sure if it's frozen on our side, but if I can just get an indication that you guys can see me and that you can hear me, and then I will start, inshallah. Okay, alhamdulillah, everything's good. So I'll just carry on. Okay, so the first thing that I'd love you to do, inshallah, is I know it's early and I know that, we might be, some of us are very sleepy. So Jazakallah khairan, Yasmin. So I just like to welcome all of you, ahlan wa sahlan, once again. And I'd like to start off with an exercise immediately, inshallah. So I'd like you to close your eyes. But in terms of closing your eyes and me taking you through this exercise, I don't want you to fall asleep. So so close your eyes and be fully present, be fully focused. But just especially Layla here by me, don't fall asleep, Layla. Just give me a few minutes, inshallah. So just be completely at ease, be completely comfortable. Close your eyes and just take some deep breaths, inshallah. Okay, so I'm going to watch Layla so that I can at least have some indication that somebody's not falling asleep and that I have somebody to work with, inshallah. So just a deep breath and another deep breath. And one last deep breath. And keep your eyes closed. Just be completely still, calm. If you can, listen to the sounds around you. Try and be completely focused. Absorb everything. Hopefully it's very quiet where you are. Every now and then I'm going to remind you not to fall asleep, not to doze off. Okay, I want you to imagine, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, I want you to imagine that you are in a very, very dark place. So all I want you to see in front of you is darkness. It's darkness and darkness and darkness. And all of a sudden, there's lots of chaos in front of you. All you see is millions and millions of people. And absolutely chaos. People are running around. People are screaming. People are shouting. I want you to imagine a very, very frantic scene. And you are part of this frantic scene. And everybody in front of you is moving in all different kinds of directions. And the scene is so intense that you are wondering to yourself, where are you and what is happening? You see people in such a state that you're not sure where you are, who you are, what is happening, and where you are going, as if you are being herded in a particular direction, and you cannot turn in any other direction except the direction that you are being herded to. And you look around you and you see people as if they are in a drunkard state. And all at once you realize that you've just spent thousands and thousands and thousands of years in your grave. And the scene that is unfolding in front of you is the day of Qiyamah, the day of resurrection. And you are being herded like everybody else. And at that moment, you are not worried about your children. You're not worried about your husband. You're not worried about your parents. You are not worried about your colleagues, nor your friends, nor your neighbors. Not worried about your boss. Not worried about any deadlines. You are just worried about the outcome of this day. And as you're moving frantically along like everybody else, it suddenly dawns upon you that something momentous is about to happen. You realize that you're about to receive your book of deeds. And all of a sudden, you are extremely, extremely anxious about whether this book of deeds will be received in your left hand, in your right hand, behind your back. And like this massive movie scene, people's deeds are starting to be exposed on a screen in front of you. Until finally, it is your turn. And all of a sudden, you hear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asking you, did you do this? And you respond, yes, my Rabb. Did you do that? And you respond, yes, my Rabb. And this carries on for a few scenes of your life. Until finally, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you, I will not expose you today. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you, I will not expose you today. I will not dishonor you. For verily I have forgiven you. And you on that day receive your book in your right hand. And all of a sudden, anxiety melts away. And all you can think about is to show every single one around you your book. And so you turn to everybody that you can find and you say, yeah, read my book. Please look at my book. And you are so, so happy on that day. And you're turning to everybody, and the relief that overcomes you, it cannot be described. Because all the hard work in the dunya has paid off, and you're finally able to have boasting rights and bragging rights. And every single person that you come across, you just want to show them your book of deeds. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Alhamdulillah, thumma alhamdulillah. It's not the day of Qiyamah. Alhamdulillah, thumma alhamdulillah. You haven't spent thousands and thousands of years in your qabr. Alhamdulillah, thumma alhamdulillah. You have one extra day and one new day to write your own book of deeds. And yes, it might be dramatic starting off with a visualization like that. But bring yourself back to earth and bring yourself back to today, because today is all going to be about your book of deeds. Today it's all going to be about how today is going to affect that day, how yesterday affected that day, how tomorrow is going to affect that day. This morning is all going to be about the decisions and the choices and the things that culminate into you experiencing the most amazing day of your life in terms of the day of Qiyamah, in terms of success, in terms of honor, in terms of, true happiness and joy and bliss. Or that day is going to be all about disgrace and dishonor and absolute wretchedness and absolute terror. Subhanallah. But the choice is yours. So again, alhamdulillah, thumma alhamdulillah, we are not on the day of Qiyamah. We are finding ourselves in our homes, in the comfort of our homes. We have just woken up from our sleep. We thank and we praise Allah for the opportunity of returning our ruh back to our bodies. We say, Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyana ba'adama amatana wa ilayhi nushur. We thank Allah for giving us the opportunity to serve Him again one more day. Alhamdulillah. So just a few things before I start officially, inshallah. Number one is that you should be having pen and paper with you, because there's a lot of things that we're going to be speaking about this morning, inshallah. We've got a very limited time to cover quite a lot of detail. So it is highly encouraged for you to have pen and paper. If you can have some highlighters, that would be great. If you can have some coloring pencils, if you can see, I've got a set of pencils here in front of me. So these are all different color pencils. If you can have anything that's color, because the color is going to be very important for you, inshallah. For those of you who have the slides in front of you that managed to print them off, great stuff, alhamdulillah. I'll talk you through which slide we're on as we're going through, inshallah. For those of you who don't have any slides in terms of a printed form, I would highly encourage that you do that afterwards, because the link has been sent to you, or the actual file has been sent to you, so you should be able to access that very easily. I'm going to ask you to follow as closely as possible, because there's a lot of exercises that we need to cover, inshallah. The last thing that I would encourage is that you have your Quran in front of you if you wish to follow the Arabic of the ayat that we're going to cover in quite a bit of detail. We're going to spend the most time on 7 ayat in Surah Baqarah from verse 30 to 37, inshallah. So if you want to follow in your Quran, then that would be great as well, inshallah. And then the last thing, in terms of your note taking, I would highly recommend, or rather not recommend, but I would encourage you to write the basmala at the top of every single page. And what you might want to do on your slides is start to write Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim on your slides already, as you are able to, in terms of whether it is a transliteration or whether it is in the Arabic, inshallah, because the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we are reminded of that every matter of importance that does not start with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is devoid. It is cut off from the blessings, from the barakah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this morning, you and I gathering here is very, very important. And this important matter requires of us to take the name of Allah right at the beginning. And therefore, I would encourage you to write it at the top of every single slide and to write it on every single page that you're about to take your notes on. The other thing that I want to encourage you to do is I want to encourage you to make a key. So if you can write the following down, inshallah. Anything that you feel that we're going to speak about for the duration of our masterclass this morning, anything that you feel that is going to be of value to you in terms of a tool to help you to navigate, to help you to practice, to help you to just follow up on what we spoke about this morning, then you put a T next to that particular note that you're making, and you draw a circle around the T. Anything that you feel that is very important in terms of that you want to go back to, you write the word, the letters VIP, and we know that it stands for very important. The next one in your key is going to be N for Nia. If there's any niyat that you are making, we would like to ask of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant you the ability to intend to perform that action, then you're going to use the letter N. And then the next one in the key is going to be sale, S-A-L-E. Sale, S-A-L-E. And that's going to equal for you to grab whatever that idea is and to try and imbibe it in your heart. And then lastly, the last part of the key is Ya Allah, and it's just going to be Ya Allah. And that Ya Allah is going to be for any part of what we're sitting and going through together today that you want of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant it to you. So if, for example, we just started off with writing the basmala, and you want Allah to give you the ability to remember to write the basmala every single time, or to start everything, every matter of importance with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, then you just write Ya Allah there, and then it will indicate towards dua, inshallah. Okay, so finally we can start with the intro. So let me introduce myself. My name is Roshaan. I am 47 years old, alhamdulillah. Formally doing this introduction simply because I needed to understand who we are, who you are sitting with this morning in terms of your friend, your sister, somebody who loves you for Allah's sake. I consider myself a student of Deen. I'm not a teacher. I consider myself a facilitator. And so therefore, when we go through the masterclass and the format and so on, I'll explain to you what my role is in all of this, bi'idhnillah. So my journey, I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. My journey, because I want the sisters who have joined and have never ever been exposed to any of our workshops or any of our classes, or any of our online things that has been happening recently. I just want to give a brief introduction so that we can set the tone and we can move forward from here, inshallah. So my journey started many years ago, alhamdulillah. I'll try to skip some of the very unimportant things. I'll try to highlight some of the important things that relates to this particular masterclass. And so the point I'll probably start off with is that in my mid 30s or my early 30s, I was very spiritually dead, rather my late 20s, I was very spiritually dead. I found myself in a space where I was climbing the corporate ladder. I was earning the bucks. I was, doing what every other person does in a corporate space, follows the herd, not really being the leader, but rather being the follower. And in my spiritual deadness, there were a few things that attributed to this. And of course, it was the test that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon me, that He bestowed upon me at that time. But the gist of it basically was that I had married at the age of 21. I had my daughter Layla, who I was referring to earlier on, at the age of 24, and by 29, I was divorced. So at that point in time, I was really, really doing well, alhamdulillah, by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in terms of well, and I put it in inverted commas, in terms of what, normally you deem as success in, at the age of 29 or so. I was really doing well in terms of my career, in terms of my work. I was climbing the corporate ladder, like I was saying. But I was really, really falling down the ladder of, my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It deteriorated to such an extent. I felt so spiritually dead that I, refused to recite the Quran because I didn't understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was saying to me. And during that time, I couldn't turn to anybody. My apologies. There wasn't a sisterhood. There wasn't a place of belonging. There wasn't a group of people. There wasn't, there was no space for me to go to say, you know what, I'm really, really battling. Please, can you guide me? Please, can you assist me? So I struggled with this, like many of you, I'm sure, on my own. And in that struggle, alhamdulillah, one of the greatest things that came from there was that I was forced to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ask of Allah that He helps me out of my state of despair, that He helps me out of my state of darknesses, and that He guides me to the light. And so one of the things that I asked of Allah, one of the very, vivid images that I have of myself is that I was barely making salah, I was barely wearing hijab, I was barely, following the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I was barely worshipping Him. But that thin thread that I was hanging on to at that point in time forced me to ask of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant me the ability to just learn the Quran, study the Quran, and love the Quran. And Alhamdulillah, that was one of the du'as that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted amongst many, many others. And this particular dua I actually made in the month of Ramadan during a time when I actually had my period. So it wasn't even a time where I could say, it was in my salah or it was in my recitation, through my recitation of Quran. It was actually in a moment where I, so to speak, felt very far from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but I just turned to Him with absolute fervor and absolute desperation, and I asked Him just to take me out of this abyss. And Alhamdulillah, I quit my job. I left the corporate space behind. I like to think about it that I left the dunya for the akhirah, because it was a real challenge. Alhamdulillah, Allah tested me with many things, and as we go through our webinars over the next few weeks and even months, maybe, then we'll unfold some of those stories as well. But the main thing is that I left my job only by the infinite mercy of Allah. It had nothing to do with me. Yes, I made certain decisions in attributing and contributing to that, but ultimately it was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that took me out. He was the one who dragged me out of that very dark space that I found myself in. Alhamdulillah, He drove me and He dragged me to the light of Quran, to the light of the masajid, to the light of the suhbah, the companionship of people of light. And subhanallah, and long story short, many years later, the organization Light Upon Light was formed. Alhamdulillah. So the organization we formed in the year 2016. So we were a small, tiny baby of 4 years old, alhamdulillah. We formed the organization in terms of, we registered an MPO, so it was called Light Upon Light Women's Foundation. In that very same time, we also formed a company called the Light Upon Light Consulting Services. And so for the last 4 years, our company has been very dormant. We haven't had any activity in that company until today. So today we are launching our Light Upon Light Academy for Personal Mastery, alhamdulillah, under the Light Upon Light Consulting Services and not the Women's Foundation. So what's the difference between the two? The main difference between the two is that the Women's Foundation primarily looks at trying to facilitate a path, a journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala according to general development of the self on your own pace. And the consulting services and those personal mastery classes and the academy that we are launching today is looking at personal development structured to go in a pace that is not in your own sort of, not on your own, but through the help, through the support of others, and through the guidance of experts, the likes of which I will speak about later, inshallah. So the main difference between the two is that the Women's Foundation is about general self-development, and the Academy is about personal development, bi'idhnillah. Okay, that takes us very beautifully, bi'idhnillah. Later on, I'll in between share some things about my past as well, just to to make things a bit more relevant, and in order for us to be able to connect with each other, inshallah. So I'd like to take you to the slides immediately now, inshallah. And the first slide that you'll be able to that you need to view, need to be able to see, I have in front of you, is the slide that's called My Niyyah. Okay, so I've told you about what are we going to do and how we're going to do it. And now I'd like you to write down what your niyyah is for today. Why are you here? So I want you to take a few minutes, or even not even a few minutes. We don't have that much time. So I'd like you to take maybe maximum a minute. I'll time you to just write down your niyyah. Why are you here? Okay. So I want you to keep your near page one side, and we're going to come back to it right at the end, inshallah. And so usually what I do at this point is that I'd ask people to share, why are you here? And so unfortunately, we're not able to hear anybody. But I'm going to assume that you are here because some of you are just wanting to test this out. You want to check it out. You want to see how it works. You want to see if this is something that will benefit you. Is this something that, speaks to you? Is this something that resonates with you? So you are here just here to explore. You maybe just be laying under your blankets. You don't even have a book and a pen in Lilai to you. So there are various people that are here for various things. There's some of you that are sitting upright. You have your stuff in front of you. You geared up because you know that there's certain things that you want to achieve, and whatever they are, you've listed them, and we'll come back to that a little bit later, inshallah. But what I'd like to point your attention to, and what I'd like to take your attention and draw your attention to, inshallah, is the fact that you are not here because of some choices that you made. Yes, it contributes to you being here this morning. You are not here because you saw an ad and you wanted to check it out. You're not here because you're a professional, and this makes so much sense to you to try and go through these master classes to improve yourself. Ultimately, and most importantly, the reason why you are here is you are here because you were chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You were chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and trust me, this is a very, very, very big deal, because it means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looked at your heart, He saw something in your heart, and He wants goodness for you, and therefore you are here this morning. So immediately what you need to do is you need to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to ask Him to grant you sincerity, to grant you an open heart, to grant you the ability to be receptive, and just to trust the process in terms of what we're going to be doing this morning, inshallah. This is very, very, very important, because I'm going to ask you some very pertinent questions, some very hard questions, some very soul searching questions this morning. And therefore you need to trust that this comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm just the vehicle, I'm just the mouthpiece. It's got nothing to do with me. I'm here just like you. Allah chose for me to be here. Alhamdulillah, I'm very grateful. And so, we attribute everything to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in another reason and another idea that I want you to bring to mind is a beautiful quote of Imam al-Haddad, where he speaks about this concept in his book called Good Manners in chapter 1. And he speaks about this idea of ba'ith, and he speaks about this idea of nafahat. So you are here because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent you a spiritual breeze. And a spiritual breeze is something that you and I need in terms of our ruh, to feel calm, to feel content, to feel, that everything is okay. You know what a physical breeze is. So imagine what the spiritual breeze is, subhanAllah. A ba'ith is something where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends you a powerful urge. You don't know why you came this morning. You just heard about it, and you just saw it, and automatically you were just drawn to that. It's not that you were drawn to it, it's that Allah drew you to it, subhanAllah. So this is this ba'ith that Allah gave with this powerful urge. It can come via a means like an ad, or a friend, or a particular person nagging, encouraging, whatever the case may be. It can also just come like that, where there's you just receive the link. You didn't even see the ad. Like it just came to you in the middle of the night, in terms of like a message popped up in your on your phone. It's just that Allah wanted you to be here. And so Imam al-Haddadi speaks about this idea when he speaks about nafahat, when he speaks about spiritual breezes. He says that, you know what? You've been led here to this door. You're standing at the door, and it is upon you to take that step through the door. And so this is what I invite you to do immediately, inshallah, as we go to the next slide, and we speak about this idea of what is our niyyah. So your niyyah on your side is your own sort of intentions and ideas, and things like that. And Leila shaking her head is really cool, because there's some interaction here on the side. Um, but it's also important to understand what our niyyah is. What is it that we as the academy want to impart? What is it that we want to achieve? And it's very, very simple, subhanallah. I'd love to hear from you what your niyat are. Not now. I'd love to hear maybe later on. And what I think it would be really lovely is, because we're going to visit this at the end again, I'd like you to do a before and after. And so I'd like you to write at the top of your Nia page before, and I'd love you to take a picture of that so it's very legible, and then you can post it in the groups later on, and I'd love to read what some of your niyat are from the beginning, inshallah. On our side, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, what is our niyat? Our niyat are that we have crafted 7 uniquely designed masterclasses. And these masterclasses will be guided by a handful of experts wishing to shape the hearts, minds, and souls of Muslim female professionals. It sounds like a mouthful, subhanAllah. And we, as an organization, we would love to help you as a Muslim female professional through a journey of personal mastery purely for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'll read it to you again. 7 uniquely crafted masterclasses guided by a handful of experts wishing to shape the hearts, minds, and souls of Muslim female professionals through a journey of personal mastery purely for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept that from us. Allahumma ameen. And so this is all in, one of the ads that we sent you right at the beginning. But before we unpack that, we're going to go to the next slide that speaks about mastery, because we're telling you we want to assist, we want to guide, we want to support you through mastery, but we first have to understand what mastery is. So according to Google, Mufti Google, and according to Wikipedia, we have a few definitions. Firstly, mastery is the comprehensive knowledge or skill in a particular subject or activity. So mastery, Layla's looking at me with a frown, so it's good because then I can, see that at least somebody's not understanding, and it gives me the opportunity to clarify. Layla's always good in that. Alhamdulillah, Allah reward her. I mean, okay, so Layla's, you want to master something, and you want to master a particular skill or a particular, sort of area of knowledge, like a body of knowledge. So in your example, Leila, so maybe you want to master the Quran. So that would be mastery in the Quran, because that is a very specific skill that you want to acquire or an activity, right? So that is mastery. But on the other hand, what is personal mastery? So the one was you want to be proficient in the Quran, right? But on the other hand, what is personal mastery? So there are a few very, very beautiful definitions. One of them I'm going to post so that you can go through them with me, or rather, I'll ask you to go through them later on. Shafika's just asking me to repeat the keys for the ladies who joined a little bit later, but I'll do that in a minute, inshallah. Jazakallah for that. First, I want to give you the simple definition of personal mastery. The simple definition that I came across is that it's simply a set of strategies and tools to help you live and work at your peak. I think that's like the most easiest way to understand that. That it's simply a set of strategies and tools to help you to live and work at your peak, right? But then there's also a very, maybe a deeper definition that's really beautiful as well in terms of personal mastery. And that definition says that it's the process of living and working purposefully towards a vision. Okay, you can close your eyes, you can listen, but just don't fall asleep, right, Leila? So you can process. It's the process of living and working purposefully towards a vision in alignment with one's values and in a state of constant learning about oneself and the reality in which one exists. So that's really beautiful. So in a nutshell, it's that simple, definition that was given earlier on. But this is now going into specific things. So there's a vision involved, there's values involved, there's learning involved, there's the realities of your existence that's involved. So it's all about you, but it's all about what it is that you want to achieve as well. So not just about you living from day to day, going to work, coming back, looking after the children, doing all of this. No, there's a particular objective involved. Okay. Finally, what we I want to define or want to go through, and I'll just post very quickly the longer version of the definition, because I found that it was very, very, very beautiful. And I'm not going to read it out now because it's way too long. I'll ask one of the sisters to post it, and then you can read it afterwards again, inshallah. Finally, on this particular slide, what I'd like to unpack is this idea of a master class, because now you understand what's mastery, you understand what's personal mastery, but now what is a master class, and what makes, and why would we want to do these 7 master classes? So a master class is given to students of a particular discipline by experts of that discipline, where they develop certain skills. Okay. So if you think about it, so what is our discipline? Our discipline is that we are Muslim female professionals. And here we have to unpack immediately what do we mean by Muslim female professionals? We mean thereby anybody that considers themselves, to be climbing some kind of ladder towards a particular objective. So if you, for example, a student currently studying and there's a certain career path that you're going to choose. If you're already in a career and you're moving from one, sort of level that you're on to a next, that is you being a Muslim professional. And a Muslim female professional is also somebody who is a mother, who's a home executive, because what is her proficiency that she's trying to gain? It's the proficiency in the profession of motherhood, right? And so that is also really, really important, and we'll come back to that in a second. So this is for anybody who wants to excel in a particular area, and it takes us beautifully to what is the Arabic of this, Layla? What is the Arabic? Ihsan, beautiful. The Arabic of mastery and personal mastery and masterclass and all of those kind of things. The Arabic of that is ihsan. It's to do something with excellence. So you and I are here because we want to excel at something, whether it's our work, whether it's looking after our children, whether it's our studies. As a Muslim female, the fraternity we're finding ourselves in terms of, that space, that discipline, we want to excel at whatever it is that we have set out to do, bi'idhnillah. Okay, this takes us beautifully to the next slide, and we're going to unpack the 7 masterclasses. So the 7 masterclasses that you would have seen in some of the previous ads that we sent out, the top one says, "Who am I?" And that is the masterclass that we are starting this morning. And it will take us at least about 6 months or more to cover this masterclass in its totality. The second masterclass that we'll be covering in the series, and in these 7 uniquely crafted ones, is the one on the right that speaks about seeking perspective. The third one that we'll be doing is finding my why. The fourth one is the ultimate blueprint on the right bottom. Then the top left is focus management. That is going to be the 5th masterclass. The 6th masterclass is going to be reframing core values. The 7th masterclass is going to be awakening the philanthropist in me. You can see at the top of the slide, very, very faint, right at the top, it says ME 101, Mastering with Excellence. Okay, so ME 101 being me, actually not. It actually stands for Mastering with Excellence. That is what ME 101 is about. And each of our masterclasses are going to be ME 101, 102, up until 107, etc. You'll see the me is the arrow on the left, and you'll see the we is the arrow on the right. That we're not going to unpack today, but I want you to take note of that. We're going to focus on the me today. We're going to focus on the me in this particular masterclass. And the top, who am I, that is what we're going to be focusing on for the duration of today and the next few months, bi'idhnillah. The next slide speaks specifically now about the Who Am I masterclass and unpacking what that is all about. So I want you to think about the ad that you saw amongst the many that we sent out. The ad that spoke about under this masterclass called Who Am I? There were 5 different parts to this masterclass that we intend to cover, inshallah. The first one is Vicegerency, which we're going to start today, inshallah. That is the top left. The next one is NLP, which is the top bottom right, which is neuro-linguistic programming. The next one after that is temperaments, the top right one. Sorry, the bottom right was the NLP. The top right is temperaments. That's going to be the third subtopic within this particular masterclass of Who Am I? And then the 5th and 6th one is going to be the bottom left. That's going to be risk management, and it's going to be the 5 love languages. Okay, so the reason why risk management and 5 love languages is in the block at the bottom together is just because there wasn't another a separate icon for this on this particular slide, but also to indicate that that particular one, so in over the next 6 months, we endeavor by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to finish Vicegerency to finish NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, to finish temperaments, and to finish either one of a risk management or 5 love languages within the next 6 months, inshallah. So that is what we are intending to do, bi'idhnillah. The vicegerency I will cover with you today. And like I said, I introduced myself to you and I mentioned to you that I am your facilitator in terms of this. I'm also going to be your co-coach, and I'm also going to be co-facilitating at some points with some of the experts. And the experts for this particular masterclass, which includes NLP and temperaments, are going to be the first one is going to be Ridwan Hanika. And you can refer to the ad that we sent previously, and we'll send it out again to those who might not have received that at the beginning. But he's going to take you through neuro-linguistic programming. And that's basically in a nutshell going to be about your thoughts, your habits, how you react to certain situations in terms of your thought processes, and whether it's positive, negative, how to get out of those spaces, how to build good habits, how to just be productive, and just create recreate who you are in terms of, like, if you're stuck and you're kind of like really unhappy with who you are right now and the choices that you've made up until this point, then that is going to be really, really awesome, because it's going to be a lot about the brain and how, all the neuroscience and all of those things. Very, very fascinating and interesting, topic and series of classes that we're going to do there, inshallah. Temperaments is going to be done by the expert, Dr. Mujib Hussain. We've sent his bio as well in that particular ad that we did. And he's going to take us through, how we navigate in this world in terms of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us with 4 primary different temperaments, and then how we interact with the world around us when we are out of balance and when we are in balance because of our dominant and subdominant temperaments. And we might speak about this a little bit later, we might not. But know that you're going to be in very, very good hands with Dr. Mujib when he takes you through that in a few months, inshallah. It's not going to be anytime soon, but it will be in a few months, inshallah. And then I'll come back in and I'll do love languages with you. And with risk management, I'll do parts of that. I'll facilitate parts of that, and we're going to get some other experts in, which hasn't been confirmed yet, but we will let you know closer to the time, inshallah. Okay, next slide. The next slide is again an exercise for you. And this slide is, which hats do you wear? And so you can see there that there are all these different paths that leads to the target. So in the white blocks, I want you to write 5 of the main hats that you wear currently. What are the 5 top hats that you wear? So I want you to think about, your roles basically. So, is it the role of the mother? Is it the role of a home executive? Is it the role of a student? Are you a teacher? What are the roles of what you do every single day of your life? 9 to 5, Monday to Sunday. What is that main role that takes up so much of your energy and so much of your time? And I want you to list all the other roles. So you have a primary role in terms of, what takes up a lot of your time, and then what are some of the other roles. And then what I want you to do is I want you to write a number 1 next to the role that you are here for today. So which role are you here for today? In what capacity are you here? So of the 5 roles, so let's say you're a student, let's say you are an accountant, let's say that you are a mother, let's say you are a wife, and let's say that you are a neighbor. Just randomly 5 different hats, 5 different primary roles and hats that you wear, roles that you play. I want you to put a number 1 next to the single most important role that you are here for today, not necessarily the most important role in your life, but which role are you here for today? Which role are you here for this masterclass? And then the next question that I want you to answer on this page is I want you to answer and this is where the tough questions are coming in, and this is where the, soul searching questions are coming in. And again, I'm reminded that Shafika wanted me to just list the tools, the key for the tools. So it would be T and you make a circle around the T if there's a tool that you are enjoying from this masterclass that you want to take and put into your toolbox to use in on a daily basis in terms of the actions. The next one would be VIP, if there's some note that you come across that's very important. The next one is N for Nia, where you write down something and you want to immediately intend to act upon that by Allah's permission. The next one is SALE, SALE, which means that you want to grab that idea, you want to hold on to that idea, you want to not let that idea, lose you, go in by the one ear and out by the other ear. And then the last one would be, Ya Allah, where immediately you are so taken by this idea, concept, gem, that you're immediately making dua and you're invoking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant you whatever it is that we are speaking about, inshallah. Okay. So the soul searching question that I want you to, on this particular slide still, that I want you to answer now is, number one, why do you work? You are a Muslim female professional. Why do you work? If you are a student and you're earning some money part-time, why do you work? Try to keep it short and concise. The next question is, why this particular profession? Why this studies? Why this particular role? And it can even be that the number one role that you chose is a voluntary role, that you volunteer at Discover Islam, Islamic Relief, that is your primary role that you are here for today as a volunteer somewhere. And so the question for you there would be, why do you volunteer at this particular organization? Why do you do this voluntary work? And the last question is very similar to the previous two, but I want you to answer it specifically to you. Why do you do the work that you do? Why do you do the work that you do? Okay, while you're still busy writing, we'll move on to the next slide because I want you to prepare now for the ayat of the Quran. So you can finish up what you're writing. Those of you on the slide already, looks very busy. But this is where we're going to spend majority of our time, inshallah. I forgot to mention that the format of our class this morning, our master class this morning, is that I'm going to take you through, there's just a few more slides left, but the slide right at the end is going to be a Q&A, where at the end of our sitting together, inshallah, I'll give you the opportunity to post some questions into the group. And the questions are going to be of two types. The one type is going to be questions relating to the content this morning, relating to this masterclass. And then the other type of question is going to be questions relating to the academy and wanting to sign up and wanting to know more information. But we'll get to that later, inshallah. Majority of our time for the next maybe half an hour or so, I'll try to keep it brief so that we can carry through and stick to our time and also not rush towards the end. But know that for about the next half an hour or so, we're just going to focus on this slide and two other slides after this, inshallah. And we're going to endeavor to translate these portions of ayat of this portion of ayat of the Quran with the intention of wanting to unpack, with the intention of wanting to deconstruct in order to reconstruct, the intention to unframe in order to reframe, the intention to unwire in terms of and with a niyyah of rewiring. So the question is, we are in this masterclass this morning because we want to understand this concept of vicegerency, right? That is the topic that was indicated for today. So vicegerency is beautifully explained in the set of ayat in Surah Baqarah from verse number 30 to 37. And I need you to focus. I need you to stay with me. It might sound like I'm going to go a little bit fast. The slide you have in front of you has the Arabic of every ayah and the English immediately below. For the Arabic students, I want you to try and focus on the Arabic. For those of you who are a little bit overwhelmed by the Arabic, by all means follow the English. I will be translating from the Arabic, so it might not always coincide with the English in front of you. So don't worry too much about that as long as it is more or less in line, inshallah. There's a reason why I'm using the specific words that I might be using at certain points. So I don't want you to stress about that too much, inshallah. So what we're going to do is I'm going to translate the ayat, then I'm going to go through some of the bit of a discussion on the ayat, and then I'm going to ask you some questions. The questions are not going to be questions that are high grade questions in terms of, what does that word mean, and what is, it's nothing. It's not going to be a test of the Arabic language. The Arabic is here for a reason, and I hope it will become clear later on, inshallah. But please don't feel overwhelmed, especially for those of you who are not students of Quran, for those of Ayat. May Allah make you of the students of Quran soon. I mean, I don't want you to be overwhelmed. You've come to the door. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you this beautiful nafahat this morning. Don't turn away from this door. Don't turn away from this door. I want you to stay. I don't want you to move anywhere from here. I want you just to remember earlier on I mentioned trust the process. This is the reason why I want you to trust the process, inshallah. Just follow, take a deep breath, say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, make some niyat at the beginning, and we're going to try and unpack this, and we ask of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us khair in this, and openings and unveilings, and whatever it is that Allah wanted from us this morning, that we reap that full benefit, Ameen, and that it exceeds our expectations of what we came here for, because this is purely from Allah. Ameen. So Allah starts in verse 30, and Allah says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وَإِذْ, and remember when, قَالَ رَبُّكَ, and remember when your Rabb said, لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ, to the angels, Inni, indeed I, جَاعِلٌ, I will make, fil ardi, I will place, fil ardi, in the earth, Khalifa, a vicegerent. Okay, so on your page, you can immediately start to just color in that word Khalifa, circle that word, underline that word. We're going to come back to that in a minute, inshallah. So Allah tells us here that He is speaking to the angels, and He's telling the angels that I'm going to place in the earth a vicegerent. قالوا, the angels, they say, أتجعلوا, will you place فيها, in it, in the earth, man, the one who, يفسد, will cause corruption, فيها, in it, in the earth. So the angels are asking Allah a question. Will you place this vicegerent in the earth, the one who causes corruption in the earth? وَيَسْفِكُ, whilst we sanctify, apologies, Afwan, whilst, or rather, and the Allah still referring to here, Yasfiku dima'a, will spill blood. So the angels are asking Allah the question in terms of this vicegerent, will you place one in the earth that will cause corruption and will spill blood? Subhanallah. Wa nahnu, whilst we, nusabbihu, we glorify you, we make tasbih of you, we praise, bihamdika, we praise you in terms of your perfection. So these are two completely opposite beings. The one is going to cause mischief and spill blood, whilst the angels, they say, but we praise you and we glorify you. وَنُقَدِّسُ, and we sanctify laka, for you. So it's such a rhetorical question if you think about it, and it's such a fundamental question that the angels are asking of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after Allah made a statement and He told them that He's going to place in the earth a Khalifa. And then Allah ends this ayah very beautifully. See how Allah says now, قَالَ, Allah says, Inni, indeed I, أَعْلَمُ, I know, ma, that which, لَا تَعْلَمُونَ, that which you do not know. I want you to highlight or underline that last part. Indeed, I know that which you do not know. Okay. The next ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on and Allah says, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ, and He, Allah, taught Adam al-asma'a, the names, kullaha, everything, all of it. ثُمَّ, then, عَرَضَهُمْ, He presented them, these things, عَلَى الْمَلَائِكَةِ, to the angels. فقال, so he, Allah said, أنبئوني, inform me بأسماء of these names, with these names, regarding these names, هؤلاء, these names. Inform me of these things. إن كنتم, if you are صادقين, if you are truthful. So Allah now turned these things to the angels after Allah had taught Nabi Adam the names of everything in existence. And Allah asked the angels, inform me of the names of these things if you are truthful. قالوا, they, the angels say, سبحانك, glory be to you, how perfect are you, Allah. لا علم لا, لا علم, there is no knowledge لنا for us, إلا except ما, that which علمتنا, you have taught us. There is no knowledge for us except that which you have taught us. Innaka, indeed you, Allah, you are, Anta, you are, Al-Alim, you are the most knowledgeable, you are the all knowledgeable, Al-Hakim, you are the most wise, you are the all wise. Qala, he, Allah says, Ya Adamu, O Adam, Anbi'hum, inform them bi asma'ihim, of the names of these things, of these names. Inform them, inform the angels of these things, of all of their names. فَلَمَّا, so when أَنْبَأَهُمْ, he, Adam, informed them, the angels, بِأَسْمَائِهِمْ, of the names of these things. قَالَ, Allah, he again said, أَلَمْ أَقُلْ, did I not say لَكُمْ, to you, إِنِّي, indeed أَعْلَمُ, I know, غَيْبَ السَّمَاوَاتِ, the unseen of the heavens, وَالْأَرْضِ, and the earth. وَأَعْلَمُ, and I know ma, that which tubaduna, you reveal, وَمَا, and that which kuntum, you taktumun, you are concealing. Allahu Akbar. Some very pertinent things coming out. And Allah continues and Allah says, وَإِذْ, and remember when قُلْنَا, we said, لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ, to the angels. Where are we? We said to the angels, usjudu, bow down, لِآدَمَ, to Adam. فَسَجَدُوا, so they bowed, they all bow down, إِلَّا, except Iblisa, except Shaitan, except Iblis. أَبَى, he refused, وَاسْتَكْبَرَ, and he was arrogant. وَكَانَ, and he was مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ, from those who reject. وَقُلْنَا, and we, Allah said, آدَمُ, to Adam, uskun, dwell, anta, you, وزوجك, and your wife, your spouse, al-jannata, in the garden. Wakulu, and the two of you eat, minha, from it, ragadan, freely, haythuma, haythu shi'tuma, from wherever you wish. Wakula, and eat. So Leila just rectifying me there. So Jazakallah for that, Leila. Wakulu, and eat the. Oh, sorry, Leila's rectifying me again. Wakula, and the two of you, the alif there indicates towards two of them. Wakula, and the two of you eat minha, from it, ragadan, freely, haythu shi'tuma, from wherever you wish. Wala, and do not taqraba, go near, هذه, this, الشجرة, this tree, fatakuna, so you will be min al-zalimin, you will be of those who are wrongdoers. I just want you to take a moment to absorb all of that very, very quickly before we end with the last two ayat. Allah continues to say, continues with the ayat, and Allah says, فَأَزَلَّهُمَا الشَّيْطَانُ. So shaitan caused him to slip. He caused the two of them to slip, عنها, from it, فَأَخْرَجَهُمَا, and he caused them, and he was the reason why they were taken out, mimma, from, kana, where they were, fihi, in it, and the state that they were in, the place that they were in, the conditions that they found themselves in. Who caused him to do this? Who caused him to slip? Shaitan. وَقُلْنَا, and we said, اهْبِطُوا, go down, بعضكم, some of you, لبعض, for or two others, عدو will be enemies. So some of you will be enemies to others. وَلَكُمْ, and for you, فِي الْأَرْضِ, in the earth, مُسْتَقَرٌ, will be a resting place, will be a place of settlement. وَمَتَاعًا, and there will be مَتَاعٌ, you will be in a place of enjoyment, إِلَى حِينٍ, for a particular time. You will have a resting place, you will have a place of settlement, and you will also have a place of enjoyment for a little bit of time. The last ayah. فَتَلَقَّى, so فَتَلَقَّى آدَمُ, so Adam received, what did he receive and who did he receive from? مِن رَبِّهِ, from his Lord, from his Rabb. كَلِمَاتٍ, he received some words. So this is really, really an important point now, because what just happened in this whole story is that we know that there are a few characters, and I'm going to ask you to unpack that. But we're getting to the end of the verse now, and I want you to see that right at the end, Nabi Adam received some words from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fataba, so Allah accepted alayhim, from him. So in other words, it is implied there that Nabi Adam made tawbah, and that he turned to Allah. Taba yatubu, he turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the words that Allah had given him, and Allah accepted his repentance. Innahu, indeed he, Allah, huwa, he is at-tawwab, he is the most, the all, the oft acceptor of repentance, ar-Rahim, the especially merciful. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. Okay, so now I need you to do some very, very important work. I'm going to ask you, we're going to deconstruct to reconstruct. Remember, that's the purpose of why we're doing these ayat. So I want you to look at your next page, and I want you to keep your next page and the page with the English together, because the next page has no English. So I want you to follow across two pages now. The first page that we went through, which had all the Arabic and the English, and the next page that only has the Arabic. And I want you to do a few things, inshallah, so you're going to have to follow very, very carefully. The first one is, I want you to highlight, and I want you to count wherever you see the word. We're unpacking Vicegerency now. So wherever you see the word Ain, La, Mim, I want you to highlight that word and any derivatives of that word. I want you to highlight it, and I want you to count it. And if whoever is done with it first, I want you to post in the group how many of those you saw on this one page of Quran. How many you saw of this one word and its derivatives? How many have you counted? Ain, Lam, Mim. So Shafiqa is just asking me again. Somebody's asking a question. If you don't work, I did mention earlier on that it is your role as a housewife, your role as a mother. It is that role that you're choosing to be your profession. So this has got nothing to do with anything that you're getting paid for. Your profession is the role that you consider the role that you are working in as a female. Whether it's voluntary, whether you're getting paid for it, whether you're not getting paid for it, it doesn't matter. Okay. So you're supposed to be going through your page, whether it's in your Quran, so it's a full page of Quran in the 15-line Quran. Or if you're going through the 2 pages of the slides, I want you to highlight, and I want you to count the amount of times that Ayin Lam Mim appears in this one page of Quran. And I'm waiting for somebody to post how many times they found it. And I want you to post it, inshallah. Okay, so Yasmin Upit, as usual, mashallah, she's saying 8 times. Okay. Just going to see if anybody else is finding anything else, any other number. Okay, whilst we're waiting, the next thing that I want you to do is I want you to find the names of Allah and I want you to highlight it. And even the name, the attribute of Allah, Rabb. So Rabb and any other names of Allah, I want you to highlight that as well. Layla Chunara, Ahlan wa Sahlan. Saying it's 7. Okay, the next thing that I want you to do is, this is number 3. I want you to list all the characters in this narrative. I want you to list all the characters in the narrative and you can actually post it. You can post all the characters in the narrative in this passage. And next to each one of them, I want you to write down what are they made of. Waiting for somebody to post. Okay, so you guys are still posting numbers. I want you to post all the different characters in the narrative. Assalam Shakira. Shakira. I can't proceed until somebody tells me the characters. Okay, Leila's giving me some answers, but I can't let her answer this one. Okay, somebody's saying she can't keep up. What's the second and what's the third? Okay, so the first question, I'll go again. Jazakallah for that. Please tell me when I'm going to fast. This is very, very important. This is the greater part of the class this morning, so we can't get lost anywhere. Okay, so somebody's saying they wish they printed the notes. I'd love to say to the sisters who already registered as members, your notes is laying here by us. And I'm sure right now you are wishing and you're kicking yourself for not fetching your notes. Okay, the first question was highlight and count the name, the word Ain La Mim. Highlight and count how many times you see that word and its derivatives. The next one was to highlight and the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, including the sifat of Allah Rabb. The third one was to list the characters and what they are made of, the characters in the narrative. Okay. So Yasmin is saying Allah. So Allah is not a character, but yes, definitely Allah is the greater part um, of this narrative. Then there's also the angels, there's Iblis, and then we're going to put Adam and Hawa alayhi salam, we're going to put them together as one character and we're going to call them man. Okay, so somebody already did that. Roshaan's got Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Malaika, Nabi Adam, Shaitan. So Nabi Adam and Hawa alayhi salam. So they will constitute one character and that will be man. Okay, and the angels and Nadia saying is made of light, Shaitan of fire. Allah is obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Nabi Adam and Hawa alayhi salam is made of clay. So just look at Kauthar Hendricks, mashallah, can you give us send us the ayat numbers of the 11 that you found of the question that we asked? What are the derivatives of Ayn, Lam, and Mim, and how many did you find? Kauthar Hendricks that you found, wassalam, she found 11. Okay. I want you to look at the characters and what they are made of. And I want you to see how each and every one of them, so we exclude Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, obviously Allah is not a character. So we're speaking about Nabi Adam, we're speaking about and Hawa alayhi salam in terms of man, what are they made of? We're speaking of shaitan, what he's made of, and we're speaking about the angels and what they made of. Okay, this is very, very, very important because as we're going to work through it a little bit further in the next slide, you need to be able to understand this. I also just want to bring your attention to something very, very important, that man is not made of light. or rather, a part of man is made of light, and a part of man is made of clay. But inside of man, man also has the ability to become fired up. And fire comes from shaitan. And so I want you to think about when this is very, very important, whether you're going to make a note now or later on, when we come to temperaments, there are some temperaments that are made that have fire inside of them. Temperaments that's called heated temperaments. And if those temperaments are out of balance, then those temperaments are most like shaitan. So it is important just to understand that and why we're going to unpack that in some future classes with some of the experts. Jazakallah khairan so much, Kawthar. I'll check that in a minute, inshallah. Okay, so the next thing that I want you to do now is I want you to go to verse number 36 and I want you to tell me what is striking, what stands out for you in verse 36. Never before over the last lockdown few weeks, have I ever wished that I could see you in front of me like I do now, just to be able to engage with you in this exercise because it's so important. And I pray that it's beneficial and that you are still with us and that you're not overwhelmed, that you're not lost. I would suggest that you listen to this later on again, inshallah, if you did find yourself becoming overwhelmed and if you did get lost, because this is important in terms of just understanding Vicegerency. Number 36, I want you to post what do you see in terms of that verse, what is standing out for you, inshallah. Kanti Nadia's typing. Shafiqa, you might want to come in here, Hubaba, and you might want to engage with me a little bit here if you wish, just so that we can have some live interaction. Roshaan, you can also do so if you wish to unmute yourselves, and just so that we can have some bit of a discussion here. And you can ask questions maybe on behalf of the sisters. Okay, so Yasmin's saying that she's seeing that Shaitan goes into slip. Very beautiful, yes. Okay, somebody mentioned something that I'm looking for. Shaitan goes into slip. Ilham, ahlan wa sahlan Ilham. She's saying there's an enjoyment for a while. Okay, Nisa, Shaitan goes into slip. Temporary nature. Okay, what are you talking about, Ilham? I need to ask you, and Firdaus, whatever you saw about, the earth is an enjoyment for a while. Okay. Auntie Shaima Dramat is saying some of us will be enemies to others. So it's a very, very loaded, this ayah, subhanAllah. But very, very beautifully, you guys are spot on. Shumira is also mentioning you shall have for a while your livelihood for a while. So there's an enjoyment and the place of settlement in the earth is only for a little time. So what I want you to highlight here is the word mustaqarrun and wamata'un. I want you to highlight those two words in terms of this is where, when we speak about finding perspective, this is the start about trying to find perspective in terms of Allah is pointing out to us here in these very powerful verses that you're only going to be in the dunya for a little while. Beautiful Auntie Nadia, man is made for Jannah and he needs to work here in the dunya in order to return to Jannah. And this is very, very, very important for you and I to acknowledge. Take it back to the visualization right at the beginning. Your work, your toil, everything is going to go into the book of deeds that you create, so to speak, every day. You are part of that creation of your book of deeds. Don't be fooled on the day of Qiyamah. Don't be deceived by shaitan. Don't let he let you slip and come on the day of Qiyamah and your book of deeds is filled with regrets and filled with actions that you wish you rather hadn't committed because you didn't play an active role in your book of deeds. Okay, we're going to have to move on a little bit faster because I want to give some time for questions at the end, inshallah. And we still have a lot to cover. Okay. Jannah is our home. Allahumma ameen. Allah make us of those who are true Jannatis and return us there. I need you to go. I need you to keep these two slides open. Your pages if you have them in front of you, and I need you to go to the Vicegerency summarized. I need you to go to Vicegerency summarize. The next slide. Min fadlik. Okay. What I need you to do here is I need you to not write down anything. We need to move to the next slide. So the unpack slide was the one that I asked you to write on, yes? And so this one is where we're going to summarize some of the things. But before we summarize it, so you can see there's three sort of bullets on the left-hand side and three bullets on the right-hand side. And before we can even attempt to write down anything in a summarized version, I need you to work with me in terms of some ideas and some content that came from the previous slide. So Roshaan, I want you to just take us back to the previous slide, previous two slides, in terms of where the English is also, and to the questions that I asked before we can summarize it. Okay. So I'm going to go through each verse by verse, and I'm going to go through some things that stands out and some things that are highlighted and some things that are very, very important, the slide list. Okay. Number one, Allah told the angels that He's going to place in the earth and in the earth a Khalifa. That was verse number 30. What is the definition of a Khalifa? The definition of a Khalifa is an agent, a representative, a successor. In other words, from generation to generation, there will be people succeeding one another and people preceding those who succeed them. And an agent, my apologies, an agent is somebody who carries out the will of his master. These are just some definitions of the word Khalifa, of vicegerent. It is an agent, a representative, a successor, somebody who carries out the will of his master. He has no will of his own, so to speak, in terms of this deputation. He is deputed. He is somebody who gets this responsibility to carry out a particular mission, and this is by the will of his master, not by the will of his own. He cannot choose what he wants to carry out in this life and what he doesn't want to if he was chosen as a Khalifa. Okay. Very important to understand around this idea is that what is the benefit of creating vicegerents? What is the benefit of placing a representative on earth? The benefit of this is that they will come in the form of prophets and messengers. They will come in the form of those who are truthful. They will come in the form of those who are martyrs. They'll come in the form of those who are righteous believers. They'll come in the form of those who are pious worshippers. The Khalifa will come in the form as those who are scholars, and they will impart their knowledge. And then you will have those who are humble servants and humble people. I'll go through the list again of what is the benefits of creating a Khalifa. They'll come in the form of prophets and messengers. They're vicegerents. They do what Allah has commanded them to do in terms of living their life as a representative of Allah on the earth. Prophets and messengers. Those who are truthful, those who are martyrs, those who are righteous believers, those who are pious worshippers, those who are scholars and impart their knowledge, and those who are humble slaves, humble people, in terms of their connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One more time, the benefits of creating a Khalifa on the earth, they come in the form of prophets and messengers, truthful, martyrs, righteous believers, pious worshippers, and scholars who impart their knowledge, and those who humbly walk on the earth. Okay, that was ayah number 1. We know what the angel said to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then Allah beautifully ended the ayah off by saying, Inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamun. Indeed, I know that which you do not know. This I want you to highlight. It was probably the first words that you came across in terms of the derivatives of the word ayn, lam, and mim, where Allah said, I know. Where Allah said, I know. So the question here that you have to ask yourself, Wat vijay? Wat kinjay? Wat kinjay, Layla? Allah is teaching us a very, very important lesson here. When Allah said that He's going to, Allah said kun. Allah said kun, and you were created. And Allah said kun, and you are meant to be a vicegerent. The question is, do you fall into any of those categories? the benefits of placing a Khalifa on the earth? Do you fall in one of those categories? Are you truly a vicegerent of Allah? Do you truly act as an agent? Are you living a living representative of Allah on earth? It is so very, very important for you and I to understand that these concepts, these ideas are given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Arabic language. And yes, you and I might not be students of the Arabic language. But like I said at the beginning, trust the process. Trust the process. I didn't want to read the Quran because I did not understand what Allah was saying to me. That in itself was a gift from Allah. Because I got so fed up with myself, it caused me to leave my job to want to study the Quran. And on that note, in the Women's Foundation and our workshops, I would usually say to the ladies, use it, lose it, abuse it, do whatever you want to with the notes, with the homework, with the discussions that we have. In the master classes, we're going to be very strict. There's no using, losing, abusing. This is your personal journey. We are here to support you. Whatever you do with this information, whatever you don't do with this information, it ultimately is going to be up to you in terms of your accountability. But we're going to try and hold you accountable for as much as we can, as far as we can, in terms of your accountability to yourself, not to us. So if you are overwhelmed by the Arabic language, ask yourself, when am I going to embark on this journey of wanting to understand this language of Allah, this language of His book, this beautiful love letter? And think about the questions I asked you earlier on. How many times does Ayn, Lam, Mim appear in this one page of Quran? What is Allah trying to tell us? What is Allah trying to tell us? Allah is trying to tell us that we must prioritize the seeking of knowledge. The next ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes and Allah says that Allah taught Nabi Adam. Okay, so here, very, very important, Allah is indicating to this ability to learn, this ability to absorb, this ability to just, like a sponge, just take in, subhanAllah. Ayah number 32, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that again, the angels are saying that they have no knowledge except that which Allah has taught us. We have no knowledge except that which you have taught us. I want you to highlight here that here the very, very important point is, do I attribute my knowledge to Allah, or do I attribute my knowledge to myself? Everything that I know of my career, of my profession, everything that I know of the work that I do, everything that I know of motherhood and being a home executive, everything that I know of being a housewife, do I attribute what I do and what I know of how I do it to myself, or do I attribute it to the knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has gifted me with? Do I try and find out more about myself and more about that particular role in order for me to perfect it and in order for me to do it with excellence? So it's really, really important to understand who do I attribute my knowledge to? And then very beautifully, Allah ends the ayah where Allah brings in two beautiful sifat, two beautiful qualities of Himself. Allah tells you that He is all knowledgeable, He is most knowledgeable, and that He is all wise. What does that mean? What does that mean, subhanAllah? It means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to point us into the direction of He knows everything. Don't you keep yourself quiet. He's all wise. He knows why this coronavirus is here. He knows why you're under lockdown. He knows why your work situation is the way it is. He knows why you're struggling in the field that you are struggling with, or unfulfilled, or that you don't have perspective. He knows. And He's trying to pull you out of that. But are you moving towards Him? So in this, Allah is trying to tell us, turn to Him, the all knowledgeable, turn to Him, the most wise. Shaida is asking a question. Do I mean that the benefits of, or the beneficiaries of the benefits. It's benefits of. So the question was, it was basically some of the research that I did on these ayat, and it was one of the papers that I came across where they spoke about, what would have been the benefit of placing a Khalifa, a vicegerent in the earth. And so it's not beneficiaries of vicegerency, but rather the benefits of being a vicegerent. The benefit of being a vicegerent in the earth is that you will find men and women who are going to be truthful, men and women who are going to be martyrs, men who are going to be prophets and messengers who are going to guide others, men and women who are going to be righteous believers, men and women who are going to be pious worshippers, men and women who are going to be scholars, and men and women who are going to humbly walk the earth. So Shaida, you're saying I'm struggling to link the list to benefits. A very, very beautiful question. Jazakallah khair for that. So what it basically means is, if take yourself, Shaida, as an example. Think about all the scholars that you've been in contact with over the last few years. Think about all the pious people that you've been in contact with, people that are truthful, people that are, worshippers, they are slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, people that are humble. The benefit that you have taken from them is that Allah chose them to be a Khalifa. So you have been able to draw close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala via this Khalifa, via a guide, via people of light, via somebody who is representing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the dunya. Please indicate to me whether that explains your question, inshallah. The benefit then, on the other hand, that you can be to others. In your home, you are a source of light. In your home, you're supposed to be that source of nur to those who are around you are struggling with light. So a true vicegerent is somebody who they will emit light. From them will come the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the light of vicegerency. Shaida, if you can please just indicate whether that makes sense, inshallah. Okay, we're going to verse number 33. I'm cognizant of the time, so I'll try to rush a little bit, inshallah, but I don't also want to, because like I said, these verses are important. Verse number 33, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again reiterates this idea of that He knows the unseen of the heavens and the earth. He knows everything that you do in open and everything that you do in secret. Everything that you reveal and everything that you conceal. So this is very, very important. Again, this is the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How aware are you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allah is that aware of you. Allahu Akbar. The next ayah number 34. Shafiqa, if you can just let me know when Shaida replies, inshallah, so that we can get an indication whether that question was resolved. Because it's an important question and I don't want anybody leaving here without being clear on that, inshallah. Question, ayah number 34 brings out some very, very, very important things. It brings out things relating to shaitan and then things relating to us. Jazakallah khair, Shaida. Things relating to shaitan. So what did he do? At the turning point where he had the ability to make a choice, he failed. He refused and he was arrogant. Everybody in that, a specific moment bowed down to Nabi Adam in terms of honor. And that's another thing to highlight, this idea of usjudu, the idea that Allah commanded him to bow down. Fasajadu, and then they bowed down. This is a concept of honor that's being highlighted to this vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because remember, this vicegerent came through now in the form of Nabi Adam. So Allah is highlighting the honor that Allah gave earlier on in terms of that Allah taught him. Allah chose him above the angels to teach him the names of all of these, all of things, everything that exists. And Allah now honors him by allowing him to respect him, and not in terms of worship as in godly, but rather as in terms of out of honor and out of respect. And so this is one very important point that is highlighted in terms of the honor of Nabi Adam, but also the choice that Shaitan made, where he refused and he was arrogant. And this in relation to us, in terms of that fire inside of us, is the fact that we sin like Adam, we sin like shaitan, and we have diseases of the heart that is fired up inside of us that causes it to eat away our good deeds. And that is obviously the sin and the disease of kibr, And it very, 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 very important. I want you to write down, what does kibr do? Kibr prevents you from reaching your true potential. It veils you from reaching pure iman, pure belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the more you work on, and this is important, we're striving for excellence here, right? So whether in your workplace or whether in your home space, wherever it is, whether with regards to your studies, you know, the more you work on trying to eradicate the kibr inside of you, the more the veils of will be lifted between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more the iman will grow, and the more you'll be able to reach your full potential as a vicegerent of Allah on the earth. The last point on verse 34 is that Shaitan, he was of those who were of the kafirin, he was of those who rejected. Question for you. Okay, before the question for you. Our teacher Mulna Ali, when we did these verses at Darul Naim, where I studied, he asked us the question, or he told us rather, look at the statement of Shaitan. Shaitan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded everybody, so put it into perspective, he is a jinn that was amongst the angels because he worshipped Allah like the angels for years and years and years. He was so good. And then the defining point in his existence came when he made this fatal choice and he failed. And there's so much lessons to draw from this. But the point that our teacher made, our principal at that point, he said, look at what Shaitan did. He did not look at who commanded, but rather he looked at the command itself. Had he to look at who commanded him, he would not have had this arrogance. So he looked at the command versus who the command was coming from. And this is a vital point for you and I with regards to vicegerency, with regards to our time on this earth and our ability to make choices, because at the end of the day, this choice led him to become of the kafirin. And here, I want you to understand this in your own life, not as somebody who disbelieves, but rather as somebody who rejects. Somebody who rejects. And so the question you have to ask yourself is, do I look at the commands of Allah rather looking at Him, the being that is commanding me? Because were I to know Him, I would never ever struggle with any of the things that I'm battling with. And even the things that I'm battling with, I will be able to overcome because I'm working on my relationship with the commander, with the one who is giving me the command. A simple example that I always like to use, and it's a very sensitive example, but I'm going to use it nonetheless because I was there. I used to go to work. When I was climbing the corporate ladder, I would stand in front of the mirror and I would look if everything was in place, makeup, clothing, hair, everything. And I would leave the house not necessarily covered properly. The command of hijab, I didn't understand at that point. I wasn't looking at the fact that Allah commanded me to cover myself, but I was looking at the command itself, and I preferred to react to it. I failed the test, of course, but I preferred to act according to how I thought I looked, according to how I thought I should live my life, versus how I should be living my life according to how Allah wants me to live my life. That is the true vicegerent. He lives his life and her life in accordance to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in accordance to whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has planned and whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made compulsory for him or her, and prohibited whatever they need to stay away from. Next one, verse number 35. Verse number 35 we spoke about already a few times, or rather it's linked to verse 36 in terms of this concept of being in Jannah, so this concept of Akhirah. But very importantly, what I want to highlight here is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them the command again, وَلَا تَقْرَبَا, and do not go near هذه الشجرة, this tree. So very important here, I just want you to write under the word وَلَا تَقْرَبَا, I want you to write the word test. So here Allah gave them a command. Allah told them not to go near the tree. And this was a test. And the question is, when Allah tests you, do you pass or do you fail? Okay, I need you to stay with me, inshallah. I'm going to come to the Muslim professional in a minute. This is very general stuff, but don't worry, we're going to get there. The next verse we've discussed in detail in terms of perspective. So the question for you is, what are you doing on this earth? Where are you going? Where is your true home? Do you really want to get there? Is it something that translates onto your limbs every day in terms of your actions? What will be in your book of deeds with regards to this particular ayah on the day of Qiyamah in terms of how you're living your day to day? And this command of ihbitu, of go down, is this idea of being distant from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it gives an indication towards a void that is currently existing between you and between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we have been removed, we have been separated from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So once we return closer and closer to the life of the akhirah in terms of turning towards what Allah wants us to do, then only that gap, that void will be filled, and that gap will lessen. Last ayah, I'm very cognizant of the time and I'm getting a bit worried now, but we ask Allah to bless barakah in our time. I mean, last verse. This verse, I want you to think of the word Rabbihi. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave words to Nabi Adam in terms of words of repentance, words of tawbah, the word Rabb, the name of Allah, Rabb, means to nurture. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is nurturing the ruh of Nabi Adam in terms of giving him words to use to turn back to him. And this is an important lesson for you and I when we get stuck, when we are challenged. We need to turn to our true nurturer, our true murabbi, the one who takes care of us from stage to stage, every part of our development. Our Rabb caused us to be here this morning. He wanted us to be nurtured by these words. He wanted us to be nurtured by these ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even if you feel extremely overwhelmed, I promise you, I was there. I know what it feels like. Just trust the process and turn to Allah. Whatever you do, don't run away. Stay at that door, even if you're standing there and others must push you through, pull you towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then just don't move, don't turn around, and don't run away. This is very important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the nurturer of your ruh. And very beautifully, the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has accepted the repentance of Nabi Adam is indicative of the loving and the caring Rabb that you and I have, that Allah, He is at-Tawwab, is the one who accepts our repentance, and He is the extremely and eternally merciful. He is the one who is waiting for us to turn back to Him. He is the one that always wants to shower. In fact, He always showers us with mercy. He always is waiting for us to turn back to Him. But how often do we turn back to Him? May Allah make us of those who constantly turn back to Him. Ameen. Okay. The summary. So we can go back to the summarized Vicegerency slide, inshallah. And I want you to very quickly write a few things, inshallah. Okay. On the top of the right hand arrow, I want you to write the word Khalifa. Right? I want you to write the word Khalifa. And below the word Khalifa, above the top right hand corner, I want you to write Khalifa. Immediately below that, I want you to write Nabi Adam. And then on the top of the left arrow, I want you to write Shaitan. So the summary is going to be with between these two characters that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested, and how you and I follow in either one of their footsteps. So the first, so now I need you to work with me very, very carefully, because I need you to write very specific things under the three circles on the right hand side. The first, at the top of the circle on the right hand side, I'm only going to speak of the right. I'm only going to speak about this Vicegerency, this Khalifa, Nabi Adam, right? What I want you to write below the arrow is, I want you to write your name. Below the arrow, above the arrow is Nabi Adam, above Nabi Adam's name is Khalifa, below the arrow is going to be your name. And then above the top circle, I want you to write Aql. I want you to write intellect. And then I want you to put a heading next to that circle, and I want you to put the heading, and the heading is going to be that this Vicegerent, he is a learning being. He's a learning being. He's somebody that has intellect, somebody that can reason, somebody that can think, somebody that can reflect. This is a very, very distinct quality. The headings, no problem. If you permit me, because we're going through this step by step, I'm definitely going to go a little bit over time, inshallah. If you need to leave, by all means, bismillah, and then you can listen to it later on again, inshallah. Khalifa is above the arrow. We're speaking about the right arrow. Below the word Khalifa, vicegerent, is going to be Nabi Adam, and then that's still on the top part of the arrow, and then below the arrow is going to be your name. I could easily have just typed all of this up for you, and you'd have just been able to work through it and see it like we had the ayat. But this is a summary in terms of just putting our thoughts together of what we just learned. So the first thing that we learned is that Nabi Adam, and by extension you and I, are learning beings. We have an aql, an intellect, which means we have the ability to reason, to think, and to reflect. The second circle, I want you to write nafs or qalb. So nafs and your heart above the circle. And next to it, I want you to write the heading, model being. So the first one was that you and I are learning beings. The second is that you and I are model beings. What does this mean? It means that you and I have choice, we have free will, and how we exercise our choice and our free will is in response to either the evil incitement of shaitan, which causes us to sin, or the angelic prompts from the angels, which causes us to do good deeds. So this is all about our choices. The second thing that I want you to write here is that this idea of making choices and decisions is you every day in your workplace. This is you every day as a mother. This is you every day as a daughter. This is you every day as a teacher. This is you every day as a student. So that roles and that hats that we spoke about earlier on, the way in which you enact, the way in which that plays out in your life in terms of those different roles comes down to this very important point, and that is that you are a model being. You have the ability to make choices. And this is what will create every single action in your book of deeds, and what will determine that fateful day, whether you receive it in your right hand or your left hand or behind your back. May Allah protect us. Ameen. Part of being a model being is values. And this is why later on in one of the later masterclasses, we're going to speak about reframing our core values, because you and I have moved so far away from prophetic and Quranic values that Allah SWT wants us to imbibe as a Khalifa, as a vicegerent of His. And this plays out every day in your job. It plays out every day in your career. Whether you choose to compete with somebody or whether you choose to help somebody succeed, whether you choose to serve or whether you choose to usurp. It plays out every single day in the career that you're aspiring towards, in your studies, in your role as a mother, in your role as a wife, in your role as a daughter. These values play out every single day, and this is because of that moral fiber inside of us that we haven't worked on, that Allah subhanahu explains through vicegerency, in terms of just, for example, just so that you can make the connection, the value of tawbah, the value of when you make a mistake, you turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there are a list of values that you and I are going to have to relearn and re-imbibe in our lives in order to be true vicegerents of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The last circle is the heading tests. Is going to be the heading of tests. And here it's going to be about, if you look at the life of Nabi Adam in this passage, Nabi Adam passed the test. And very, very importantly, Nabi Adam, he passed the test to such a degree that he loved the names of Allah on a human level. Allah is at-Tawwab. Allah is the one who accepts repentance. Nabi Adam made tawbah. He turned back to Allah with repentance. And he was, and so too, you and I were able to accept somebody else's forgiveness from somebody else when they come to us, when Allah is al-Ghafur or al-Ghafar, and Allah forgives and we can love that on a human level by forgiving others. Subhanallah. Where Allah is Ar-Rahim, He is the eternally merciful, you and I have the ability to be merciful. When Allah is Al-Alim, He is most knowledgeable, you and I have the ability to learn. But how do we, where do we attribute that knowledge to? We cannot want to love that quality and that name of Allah on a human level of Al-Alim, of Allah being the most knowledgeable and me learning, if I'm constantly going to try and be the most knowledgeable. That's not living it on a human level. That's not being a Vicegerency. I have to attribute my knowledge to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I have to put it in its rightful place. Very, very importantly, comparing to this test. So you can go over to the circle on the left hand side under the heading of shaitan, and you can put test there by that last circle as well. And you can put there that like Nabi Adam passed the test, unfortunately shaitan failed the test. Like Nabi Adam loved the names of Allah on a human level, shaitan did not do that. And he was very, very important here. Shaitan was then defined by this one sin of refusing to bow down to Nabi Adam because of kibr, right? He was defined by this one sin. On the right hand side, you can write that Nabi Adam was defined by his tawbah. Under that heading of this, Nabi Adam was defined by his tawbah. And so what is very important here is that there was an environment that they were both in. But because of the choices that they made, they both came out of from that test in a very, very completely opposite manner. Shaitan passed, when Shaitan failed, Nabi Adam passed. Shaitan was defined by his sin, Nabi Adam was defined by his tawbah. The question to you is, will you be defined by your sins or will you be defined by your tawbah? May Allah grant us true understanding, grant us to always turn back to Him. Allahumma ameen. What's very, very important under the test here of Nabi Adam is to understand that he adopted praiseworthy qualities. And that is the values that we spoke about earlier on. So you and I, as we go through this master classes of particularly here Vicegerency, and then later on in terms of all the other ones, we're going to try and work on the praiseworthy qualities that we want to increase in us in order to truly be Vicegerents of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our workspaces, to excel at what we do in order to benefit others. And at the same time, we're going to try and work on those blameworthy qualities, the qualities of kibr and the qualities of showing off and the qualities of jealousy and the qualities of whatever qualities there are, that is within us that we want to get rid of, that diseases of the heart. We're going to, over the next few months, inshallah, by the permission of Allah, we're going to try and raise the praiseworthy qualities within us and tramp on our nafs in terms of the blameworthy qualities. Allahumma ameen. I want you to go back to the left-hand side. We're going to complete Shaitan's, the summary of Shaitan quickly. The top circle is, you can put the heading environment. And the environment here was when he was with the angels. And the second one is where he was a worshipper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So your environment is going to determine who you become in terms of who you hang out with. But at the same time, your environment, when you make the wrong choices, even in a good environment, you can it can still have a detrimental outcome. So he was in a good environment with the angels. This is Shaitan, and yet and he was worshipping Allah for many, many, many years, and yet because of the choices, which is the next circle, the choice that he made, the first one was Abba, he refused. The second one was Wastakbar, and he was arrogant, and therefore he became of those who were rejected. So these were the two major choices that he made. He refused and he was arrogant, right? And so here, what I have to draw your attention to is something very important. As a vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I want you to think of the angels being higher than us. And then I want you to think of, your animals being lower than us. And so we in the middle, right? Through our choices, we have the ability to supersede and exceed and go beyond angels in terms of our ability to come close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to do righteous deeds and all of those kind of things. We have the ability to excel in terms of way beyond, exceed the angels. But at the same time, if we give in to our nafs and all these diseases of the heart and the blameworthy qualities, We have the ability to go lower than animals because animals were created for whatever it is that they do. But when we act like animals and we give into those animalistic instincts and the satanic instincts, the ones of like arrogance and showing off and competing and all of those kind of things, then it is going to set us really, really far back. May Allah protect us, but it then gives us the ability to be worse than animals. May Allah to really just guide us and give us the tawfiq. Allahumma ameen. So very importantly, Nabi Adam adopted the praiseworthy qualities and Shaitan adopted the blameworthy qualities. Nabi Adam adopted the praiseworthy qualities and when Shaitan, he adopted the blameworthy qualities. And so in conclusion, what does this mean for us? It means for us that man arafa nafsahu, whomsoever knows himself, faqad arafa rabbahu. He will indeed know his Rabb, he will indeed know his nurturer, he will know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who takes care of him from every single stage of his life, from one to another. And so the question for you that you have to write down right at the bottom here is a very pertinent question, and that is, what can be more important based on this statement? Man arafa nafsahu, whomsoever knows himself will know Allah, will know his Rabb. What can be more important than you seeking ayn lam mim, than you seeking ilm, than you seeking knowledge, in order for you to become the true vice student of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so because we are almost on 9 o'clock, I'm going to go through the next few slides very quickly, but there are going to be things that you will have to do after the session, inshallah. So the next slide speaks about vision. Everything that we've gone through now for the last hour, 2 hours, I want you to think about, and I want you to take some time out today, not later than today, because otherwise you're going to forget, and otherwise this is going to be absolutely fruitless. I want you to look at the vision slide, and I want you to write down what is it that you see at the end of your road. I want you to think about what is it that you see at the end of your road, and what is that one special thing. Now, this is very important in terms of mastering with excellence, in terms of who you are as a vice student of Allah in your workplace, as a Muslim female professional. This question is for you in that role. And even if it is you as a student or you as a mom or a wife, it's going to hold the same value. What is that one special thing that Allah has given you that makes you you? This is part of us trying to unpack our purpose in life and our true, vice studency. Allah gave you a mission to perform on this dunya. What is that one special thing that Allah gave you? And then as you see that end of the road, and as you see that vision of where it is that you want to be, I want you to ask yourself the questions: are you aligned to this vision? Or are you doing something completely different to what you were gifted with to do? This is a very important question. You can write it by the flag right at the end. The question is, are you aligned to this vision of whatever it is that you're seeing at the end? Remember, this is you. Where is that end? What is it that you are seeing? Are you aligned to this vision, or are you doing something completely different to what you were gifted with to do? The second question is this where you spend your time and energy 9 to 5 every day? Do you expend your energies daily from 9 to 5 on this, whatever it is that you have, that you are seeing as your vision? And right at the bottom of the page, I want you to write the third and the last question, and that is, what are you busy with? And does it contribute towards the visualization exercise that we did right at the beginning of you receiving a book of deeds in your right hand? The question is, what are you busy with? And does it contribute towards the visualization exercise that we did at the beginning of receiving a book of deeds in your right hand? What are you busy with? And that's in inverted commas. What are you busy with? And does it contribute towards the visualization exercise that we did at the beginning of receiving a book of deeds in your right hand? The next slide very quickly is how do I get there? It's going to be the goals that you're going to set for yourself from today, from this very moment, until you reach that flag at the end on the vision page. So we're on the goal slide now, goals. And you'll see these steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At the top of the step, I want you to write Ramadan under number 1. So at the top of that step, I want you to write Ramadan. At the top of number 2, I want you to write Shawwal. At the top of number 3, I want you to write Dhul Qa'dah. At the top of number 4, Dhul Hijjah. And at the top of number 5, Muharram. No problem. I'll repeat the questions again on the vision slide. You don't have to go back to the vision slide. I'll just repeat the questions. They were very important, and you're going to have to do them outside of this class, inshallah. So the first one was, what do you see when you see that flag at the end of the road? What is it? What is that vision that you see of you as a vice-gerent, right? And the second part to that question was, what is that one special thing that Allah has given you that makes you you? What is that one special thing that Allah has given you that makes you you? And then by the flag at the end of the road, I want you to write the questions. There are 2 questions there and then 1 question right at the bottom of the page. The question is, are you aligned to this vision? Whatever you see at the end of the road, are you currently aligned to this vision? And are you doing something completely differently to what you were gifted with? Remember, the first part was what we were gifted with. And so this gift that Allah has given you, are you doing something completely different to what you were gifted with in order to reach this point at the end of the road? And the second question is this where you spend your time and energy every single day from 9 to 5 for the vision? Yes. And the last question at the bottom was, what are you busy with? And does it contribute towards the visualization exercise that we did right at the beginning of you receiving a book of deeds in your right hand? So on the slide of goals, it's basically going to be Ramadan. What were the things that you wanted to achieve in Ramadan? And what were the things that you wanted to take from Ramadan? The second step was the month of Shawwal, which you are in right now. What is it that you want to achieve towards that vision and towards your goals? This is all about how you're going to get there, right? The third month is going to be Dhul Qa'dah, the fourth Dhul Hijjah, and the next one is going to be Muharram, which is going to be the start of the new year. So it's step by step. I want you to think about how are you going to get there? How are you going to achieve those goals? For example, one of the things is going to be to maybe seek knowledge. One of the things is going to be to sit and read the Quran more and understand the Quran more and ponder upon the Quran more, whatever the case, right? One of the things is going to be that you want to sign up for this masterclass, because the question is, why not? Why not? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala invited you here this morning. Why not? Right? So one of those goals could be that you want to continue with this masterclass until you are able to reach your goals. I mean, the next slide that we're going to, that was just examples, right? The next slide is purpose. We're almost there. The next slide is purpose. And this is basically where you're going to re-look now after everything that we learned this morning. You're going to re-look at the slides of Vicegerency. And on the slide of purpose, you need to realign your roles and hats to what you learned this morning. Are you aligned? I told you at the beginning, I'm going to ask you a lot of tough questions, a lot of soul-searching questions. I told you also that I'm not going to tell you use it, lose it, abuse it. No, it's most certainly going to be you just using all of this information to get to where it is that you want to be. The next slide, it's defining your purpose. So you're going to have to start looking at what your true purpose is. And this is what we're going to unpack over the next few months. So you're not necessarily going to know it right now. You're going to have a vague idea, but the idea is to start somewhere, inshallah. The next slide is you go back to the first slide, you revisit your niyyah that you wrote. Remember, I told you to write before, and now you're going to write the heading after. And after everything that we learned this morning, I want you to realign yourself to your niyyah. And I want you to write down what is, what is it that you are writing as an after in terms of realigning yourself with your initial niyyah at the beginning. of this masterclass. And then the most pertinent question for today is, what is the one thing that I'm making niyyah for today? Nawaitu. I intend to. What do I intend to do? The one thing. I just wanted to take one thing out of today that you need to write down on this particular slide where you're revisiting your niyyah, which was the slide right at the beginning where you wrote the niyyah before and now you're writing your niyyah afterwards. Okay. There's two more slides and then we can put on the camera very quickly again, inshallah. The next slide is basically going to be just a brief overview of some of the things that you can expect in the coming months, inshallah. There are a few books that we're going to be covering. One of them is Productive Muslim, which is going to help us with the productivity and focus management. One of them is going to be with the heart in mind, which is going to be about emotional intelligence and acquiring, all these praiseworthy qualities that we are struggling with, and how we trample on our nafs in terms of the blameworthy qualities. And another one is going to be the 11 leadership qualities of Rasulullah SAW and how he was able to change the world. And as you can see from the slide, he had vision, integrity, holistic justice. He had spiritual intelligence. He was competent. He had courage. He was compassionate. He was a servant in terms of how he led. He was practical in terms of his, he had practical wisdom. He was resilient. He was able to bounce back, and he was pragmatic in and he was decisive in his decisiveness. So these are 11 qualities that are described in the book that we'll be going through at some later point, inshallah, amongst many other books, some of Simon Sinek's books as well, and many others as we go along, inshallah. The last slide before the Q&A is going to be on an assignment. So you'll note that we not saying homework, it's an assignment. And this assignment is for you to do a vision board after everything you've completed, all the questions and everything that we've spoken through this morning. You're going to do a vision board of like physically putting down on a board. There'll be instructions that will come out later this morning, inshallah, as to how you do it and in your time. But this assignment is due in about, today is the 16th, in about 10 days time. This assignment is due around about the 25th or the 26th of June, inshallah. And it's before our next masterclass, our next session together. And so therefore the assignment is due then, where you're going to do a vision board of your own vision that you want to, or how is it that you want to achieve, the things that you want to achieve within your life, bi'idhnillah. We can turn on the camera and then I'll wave to you. And then we'll take some time for questions and answers. We're already 10 minutes over time, but I'm most certainly going to stick around for a little bit. Those of you who need to leave, by all means, Jazakallah khairan for your participation. But for those of you who are able to stay, we're going to take some questions with regards to the content itself. And then we're going to take some questions. So I'll do that for about 5 minutes, inshallah. And then we're going to take some questions around the master classes. And just before you come to the questions about the master classes, I just want to do a quick summary for those of you who need to leave. So firstly, if there's anybody that is youth, there's a separate masterclass completely for the youth that's going to be free of charge, but it's only going to be probably at the beginning of next year, inshallah. The criteria for joining that masterclass is that you have to apply and you won't automatically be accepted into the masterclass, because it's specifically going to be for youth who wants to work with other youth. So if you're a youth and you enjoyed this morning and you want to stay in this masterclass, by all means sign up, no problem. But know that there's going to be one specifically for youth. It won't cover things relating to marriage and motherhood and any of those kind of things in terms of like the professional Muslimah. It will cover specifically you as a youth and your impact and your role with regards to your peers. So that's just in terms of the youth masterclasses. In terms of how these masterclasses will work, like I said, I gave you an assignment now. It's due in about 10 days time, inshallah. We'll meet again. I think it's the 27th, it's a Saturday morning. We'll meet for 2 hours again, inshallah. This obviously was a bit longer because it was the introductory session. And then I just want to highlight something very, very important. that I forgot to mention when we spoke about, we did mention it actually, we spoke about Masterpiece. So there are two options for those of you who have and signed up, and those of you who want to still or are thinking about signing up. The one option is you come to a masterclass once a month, which will be like this, how it was this morning. The second one is, the second option is that you'll come to this session and a follow-up session, which will be around coaching, where we're going to take all the information that we did this morning and we're going to try and unpack where are your struggles, what can we do to accelerate certain things. It's going to be more interactive and discussion based. And that obviously is going to be the alternate week is going to be this, or the second week rather, is going to be the coaching session. So those are for those of you who wish to do the full on masterclass, inshallah. When it comes to the experts and when they start coming in, then you will have an opportunity to get a focus session like this from them in terms of where they give you the theory. And then the session where they coach you, they will do that some coaching, and I will go facilitate if need be in that regard, inshallah. So really it's so important just to understand how it's going to work, and then to be able to make a very decisive decision with regards to that. So there's some questions that's coming through. So first I want to take the questions relating to the content, inshallah. So if there's anybody that has questions with regards to the content, I'd like to fill that for about 5 minutes, inshallah. What I forgot to mention is that in terms of the person who chooses the option 2 and wants to do the coaching as well, that person has to produce a masterpiece at the end of at some point. And it's depending exactly, on their pace and what it is that they want to achieve. So I want to give you an example on how this masterclass actually came about very suddenly. I was having some conversations with a sister, and very beautifully, mashallah, she was already like in the process of wanting to, become a true vicegerent in terms of her role, and she was wearing many hats and all of those things. And she just spoke to me very briefly about the fact that she wanted to leave her job. And then, alhamdulillah, she resigned. And one of the very pertinent points that I want to make here, usually in the Women's Foundation workshops, I would mention to you that, don't come tell me tomorrow that you resigned. In this classes, I'm waiting for you to resign. And I'm not waiting for you to resign in order for you to, be in a difficult state and struggle and all of that. No, if what you're currently busy with is not aligned to who it is that you want to be, doesn't align to that vision slide and your goals and all of those kind of things, it doesn't align to you being a vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then I would love to be part of the process. Our organization would be love to be part of the process of supporting you to reach your full potential in what Allah has, gifted you with, and what Allah has created you to become. Allahumma ameen. So just an example of the sister, she was saying to me that, there was, she resigned, and then there was an opportunity for her to go back to her job, and she was a bit conflicted. And I said to her, what is it that you would be doing if from 9 to 5, if you don't go back to your work? And she gave me a whole list of things that she wanted to achieve. And I said, khalas, the fact that you want to do those list of things, and one of them was to author a book. And alhamdulillah, last night she dropped off a book. I don't know why she's in this masterclass, because she's already, this is a masterpiece, alhamdulillah. And I would love to sell the book for her in the very near future when it's available, inshallah. But this is an example of, I saw what her vision was, and I said to her, how can you be wasting your time behind a desk, trying to really just contribute to somebody else's success in terms of your working environment, when there's certain things that the ummah is needing from you. So the ummah needs authors. And that's why immediately, regardless of all the other things that she mentioned she wanted to do, because I sell books, I know that there's a dire need for authors. And so I could immediately see this as a masterpiece. And so, yeah, alhamdulillah. So just through the process, if you can imagine, if you're somebody that wants to maybe author a book, then that would be your masterpiece at the end. The coaching would help you to get the theoretical classes, and all of that would assist you in being able to achieve that. So that's the main difference between the two options, where the one is you just come for the theory once a month, you do things according to your pace with no coaching, And the other one is where you come for the coaching as well, and we will try and support you bi'idhnillah as much as possible. On our side, we promise to be there for you. On your side, you just have to make the time and the effort. Allahumma ameen. Okay, so let's go to the questions very quickly in terms of the classes. So Shafiqa, if you can just post it for me, because then I can, then I don't have to go to so many different. Okay, so somebody is asking, what would you suggest in order for you to find your gift? Okay, very, very beautiful question. The thing that makes you you. And I really, really appreciate this question, because I know that this is a struggle, and I can relate to this 100%. And especially when you're not clear, and especially when you don't know who you are, and you don't know, where you sort of should be heading and all of those kind of things. So I'm going to give you an example of my own life. I worked for a shipping company. I didn't go to university. I started studying while I was working. Many years into working for this company, I started studying, and I did a degree which I didn't finish. I've got 3 modules left. Pray for me that Allah makes me capable of finishing that, because I want to do another degree in psychology, but I want to finish the other one first. But I studied information systems and transport economics, subhanAllah. But I became a business analyst, and I became a trainer and a facilitator by profession. And so what transpired in that setting for me was that I learned a lot of skills, but I didn't quite feel like I was benefiting anybody. So I felt very unfulfilled. And this was part of my spiritual abyss that the darkness that I was in. So what I'd like you to invite you to do and to think about is this important idea of like, so start off with it's very, very important. If this is where you are stuck in terms of not knowing the gifts that Allah has given you, you have to start with the questions that I posed you, those soul searching questions. You have to start there. You have to be in spaces of enlightenment, in spaces of where you can get that aha moments, in spaces of creativity, in spaces of where you are just trying to explore your passion. So one of the things you can jot down as well is like, what makes you what excites you, and what makes you want to get up in the morning, and what makes you really just want to be a benefit to society. And that is what true vicegerency is. It's where you become a person of impact, where you become somebody that does for others, not because you want recognition and fame, but because you want to do it for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because by assisting somebody else, by serving somebody else, Allah will be pleased with you, and you will change the world around you. So this is an important question. And just from my own life, I can give you an example. When I only had 2 jobs in my life. The one was at a shipping company, and the one was in a financial services institution. When I left the shipping company, I had a professional CV drawn up. And when the guy asked me the questions as to, these based on the questions that I answered, my CV skewed towards 2 different professions completely. One was a business analyst, and one was a trainer. Because those were the 2, kind of areas that I was skilled in. So obviously it would be equally in those directions. And then he said to me, I have to choose one in terms of how I would post my CV out there. And I said to them, I actually want neither. I want to be a humanitarian. And subhanallah. So just think about it. My passion wasn't in business analysis. My passion wasn't in transport economics. I was doing and it wasn't in training or anything like that, but I was doing a total injustice to myself. However, the skills that I learned as a business analyst, as a trainer, is what, and these are skills and gifts, and very, very beautifully orchestrated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I was able to take that Allah taught me, that Allah gave me, that Allah allowed me to acquire over the years of me working, and I was able to apply that to the community in terms of analyzing the community and the needs and the youth and the women and so forth and so on, and be able to come up with the training programs and the workshops and all of those kind of things. So it definitely wasn't a loss, but definitely it was truly the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But by the time I started studying Quran full time, I felt many regrets of not having given the haqq and made priority the knowledge and the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in order to understand this one page of Quran of like vicegerency, subhanallah. So start with listing your passions. What are you good at? So I'll give an example. In my case, one of the strengths that I believe Allah has given me is the ability not to fear public speaking, the ability to be able to, want to engage with others, wanting to connect with others, And so that's important to recognize, not in a boastful manner, but I know it's from Allah. I know it's not from me. I know it's not something that I can acquire. This morning, I was up until 4 o'clock, alhamdulillah, and I knew that I needed to put everything into what had to come out of this morning. But ultimately, I knew that it would go according to how Allah wanted it to unfold. And I knew that it would be whatever Allah had already planned. And I knew that whoever joins and whoever does not join, it's going to be by the permission of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala invited them. It is up to them to choose whether they want to uninvite themselves or whether they want to continue to carry this journey forward and step through the door, inshallah. Okay, next question. I hope that that's clear. The next question is, if your main goal is to become a vice-regent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also you need to earn a living. This is a very important question. I don't think I ever distinct or separated the vice-regent from earning a living. As a Muslim professional, you are a vicegerent. And so this is what this masterclasses is going to be about. Like, how do you portray that vicegerency in your workspace? You cannot be, that true vicegerent of Allah when you don't know vicegerency, when you don't know what Allah is expecting from you, firstly, on a human level. So that moral being that you are, that learning creature that you are, all of that first have to come fully into effect in order for you to be able to understand, how do I portray that to my colleagues? How do I put, so for example, when you're ignorance of my time, but at the end of the day, it's about you and I understanding that when we understand what Allah wants from us in every single space of our lives, who I am at home cannot be different to who I am at work. So if at home I don't do that, why would I want to do that at work? But it's about bringing the two together. First, understanding who being a servant and being a slave to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And something very important that I neglected to mention earlier on, the summarized version of vicegerency and all the questions and things that I asked you, I watched a beautiful clip of an hour and a half. We'll post it in the groups, inshallah, that spoke about an atheist who came across the Quran, who unpacked this. Most of what I told you about those 3 summarized versions comes from his analysis of the Quran. And he could say to the audience that Ain, La, Mim and its derivatives, Ilm, appears 854 roughly times in the Quran. More or less 854 times. As a mathematician, he could identify that. And as an atheist, he was taken by these verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because he saw suffering and he couldn't understand how can he be a God if there's suffering. And so what his reading of the Quran and his research of the Quran did for him was, he came to realize that Allah speaks about himself in the Quran in terms of like Allah is Al-Alim, Allah is Al-Hakim. And then he wanted to make the connection between, this vice-regent, this human being and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he realized that what Allah is expecting from us is to love his names on a human level in order for us to be this vice-regent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And through that, us loving these names of Allah on a human level, you and I become connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We become somebody that's building a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we accept this, this servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we don't turn away from it, and we don't, move and run away. Subhanallah. So I hope that makes sense in terms of, the question was, if I can just go back to it, you need to earn a living, be a good wife, and how do you strike the balance? Okay, that's early days now. We can speak about balance later on, inshallah. Not anytime soon, but we'll speak about it definitely because it's an important question. But we need to take everything. That's why I said to you, I can't stress you enough. Trust the process in terms of how we're going to unpack this. And I can tell you, I didn't understand this before. I lived my life heedless of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like I said, I didn't wear my hijab. I didn't make my salah at work. I came home and sometimes I didn't make salah at all. May Allah, forgive me. I'm not trying to expose my sins, but I'm trying to tell you, I know, don't look at this. Don't listen to this and then think something of me. I am a nothing in front of you because I'm a nothing in front of Allah. But I can promise you, my beloved sisters, I can promise you, I know your struggles because I go through them and I have been going through them. And so this is what I want to offer in terms of my support to you. And I can also tell you, I was very unclear before I started studying Quran. And as these verses, like this particular page of Quran, was explained to me, and as I, studied more tafsir and I listened to clips like Jeffrey Lang's one on vicegerency, things became clearer and clearer and clearer. And I can promise you, I'm sitting in front of you today, and I can tell you, I truly know my purpose. I am very clear. There is nothing that I'm unclear about with regards to my purpose, versus when I was in my late 20s and in my early 30s. And all I was trying to do in terms of goals and a purpose in life was I was trying to earn money. I was trying to earn money in terms of trying to earn a living. We want to change that. We're not saying you mustn't earn a living, but what we are saying is be beneficial in what you are doing. And if you are not being beneficial, then you need to re-question and you need to realign and think about what it is that you want to do in order to attain that. So, to Sister Rhoda David, so we're definitely going to unpack that balance. We're going to unpack, you being a mother, you being a wife. We're going to unpack all of that in relation to you being a Muslim professional. But what we spoke about today is one of the most important roles, and that is vicegerency. You are a vicegerent, you are a representative of Allah first before anything else, and you are a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Shamla is asking, how does one know where you are at currently in terms of your purpose? It's definitely something that you're going to feel, and you're asking that the gifts that Allah has given you, that you are using it to the best of your ability. You will know. Wallahi, you will know. And you will also know when you're not using it. And so these are some of the things that we will touch on in the coaching sessions, inshallah. So I appreciate these questions because it will allow me to prepare for in a few weeks time, inshallah, and we will go through these questions specifically. And so the more questions you pose, and so we leave the groups open, inshallah. The more questions you pose, the more reflections you have, the more it will help to be able to do the coaching on a group level, because obviously it will not be individual coaching, unfortunately. Okay, so Maimuna's asking, oh, she's giving a comment. I'm not going to read that. Fadia Slamang is, okay, giving a comment there as well. She wants to know a little bit more about the academy. Please post in the group and one of the sisters will pick it up, inshallah. Maz is asking, is it possible to do the sessions on one's own time and not during 7 to 9 in the morning? No problem, because with small kids and you need to see to their needs, absolutely. Okay, so we chose this particular time because of a few things. I can't go into too much detail because we are so over time already, but I'd like you to start posting your questions with regards to the academy, inshallah. So with regards to the time and the particular hour, so we chose this time because we want to start when we're going to speak about seeking perspective, and when we're going to speak about the section on the ultimate blueprint, then one of the things that's going to come through very strongly, and so this is why I want to speak about it now, is we're going to try and match our blueprint to the blueprint of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Rasulullah Sallam used to love his day from morning to night in a particular fashion. So what we are doing at the moment is we're trying to spend the early part of our day not only seeking knowledge, but also to reap and to draw from the rahmah and from the barakah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we know that the barakah is in the morning. So what you couldn't ordinarily have achieved between 7 and 9 in the evening, you can achieve between 7 and 9 in the morning, just as an example. I mean, I would have loved for us to do it much earlier. I was up at 4. We could have done it from 4 to 6, no problem. But the point being that it is so important for us to try and move towards the ultimate blueprint and move towards a prophetic lifestyle. And so this is the time for many, many years, more than a decade, that we've run our classes in the Women's Foundation during this time. And we really, really found openings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is why it's a very blessed time, and it's a time that we want to continue to use, inshallah. You can most certainly watch it later. The only thing is you won't be able to ask the questions immediately, but you can most certainly post it in the groups later on, inshallah. So if there's no other questions to, so if Shafiqa can just post any other questions with regards to the mastery, otherwise we'll end off, inshallah. Okay, there's another question. Yumna's asking, will there be no coaching unless you take the second option? Unfortunately not, because of my just in terms of my personal time. So in terms of me being able to offer that, there's also the Women's Foundation workshops that I am involved with, and that has a haq over me. So we do workshops on a Saturday and on a Sunday, and we are busy with many other things and youth involvement and subhanallah, Allah has really, afforded us the opportunity to be involved in many things. So from a perspective of time on our side, and then also from a perspective of time with regards to the experts that are going to come in. And so we've arranged and negotiated with them that they will be able to assist us, and some of them won't even be able to assist with the coaching. I will have to facilitate where possible. But it's only with the second option. If funds is a concern there because it's a little bit more expensive, then we want to offer to our members of the Women's Foundation. If you're a member of our Women's Foundation, then you get a 50% discount if you bring somebody else into the academy. So you sign somebody else up to the academy, and of course today you've tasted for yourself, and you by all means can try and encourage somebody else, and then you'll be able to get that discount. Okay, question. The idea of the masterpiece at the end seems very scary. Okay, very, very beautiful comment and reflection there. That idea of drastic change in a few short months. I did not say a few short months. I'm sure I said at your own pace. Sister Maimuna very beautifully did her book before she even joined the class, alhamdulillah. So that was her in her own time. I cannot say to you when your masterpiece must be complete. That's going to be totally unrealistic. Your masterpiece is going to come about when Allah wants it to come about. It won't even come about in your time. It will come about in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's time. So she's saying, I'm not sure what my question is. Perhaps some small gains also as a masterpiece. That's so this is ilham. So this is entirely this is your journey. We're just here to support your journey. So I'm going to coach and encourage, and I'm going to be stern at some points and firm at some points. And at some points, I'm just going to tell you, like, you know what, Bismillah, you do you do what you need to do, but you first have to have a vision in mind. So, for example, if you take Maimuna's example of this book, I can't tell you that your book must be ready at the end of 6 months when we finish with the first, masterclass. That's impossible because you haven't even gone through seeking perspective. You haven't even gone through the ultimate blueprint. You haven't even gone through focus management. How on earth must you do that? So this is going to be on your pace. And you're going to set the pace according to how you wanted to do. I just want to maybe reiterate in terms of the goals where I said, Ramadan, Shawwal, Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, Muharram, that had nothing to do with a masterpiece. That had to do with how you want to achieve certain goals that was a general, how you want to achieve which goals you want to achieve over the next, it was just months that I put there in terms of giving you some kind of idea and insight. But with regards to your masterpiece, it's going to be your own pace, and you're going to choose your masterpiece or masterpieces. And when I say masterpiece, I also want to reiterate that, for example, Maimuna's idea was, a book. It could be that you want to start a business. It could be that you want to, set up a school. It could be that you want to, you know, just in terms of like, so let's move away from the professions quickly. It could be you want to just put the certain things in place in order to leave your job, in order to truly do what it is that you want to do, and that could be your masterpiece if you wanted to be that. And it will shift as time obviously goes along, as well, if you're not clear at the beginning. If you speak about like motherhood, and you speak about the housewife and the mother, then your masterpiece is raising your children. And I'd love to be involved in that, only because on the day of Qiyamah, I would love to have a mountain of good deeds in front of me because of whatever your children did at your hands, and whatever you learned by the permission of Allah through some of the things that we imparted. So you're wanting to be a better wife. That's an amazing masterpiece. So think out of the box. It's your life. You are the vicegerent of Allah. I know my purpose. I know what I want to do. I know who I want to be. I know who I want to be when I return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm clear about that. I want to help you to become clearer. And so you first have to find out what that is, what that looks like, for all those questions that we had this morning. And then slowly but surely, we're going to go through it. What I would like to do is, okay, another question is there any support after the actual classes? I would say that the support will be offered in the form of the coaching session, which is in 10 days time, or whenever the 27th is, inshallah, the not Saturday this week, but the next Saturday. That's how the support will come. And also by leaving this group open. If we leave the groups open, you can chat as much as you want to in the groups and put your reflections and things in there, your concerns, your challenges, all of those kind of things. It will help, like I said, to formulate the coaching sessions. However, the open day group will close probably by tomorrow, inshallah. And the only reason why it will close is because we need to know who it is that we're working with in terms of the sisters who are signing up. If you need more time to think about it, by all means, if you want to make istikhara salah, this is an important decision in your life, bring Allah into the equation, by all means do that, inshallah. But the chat, the WhatsApp group will be closed off, and we will only be taking on the members' concerns and challenges in their groups, in their group, in order for us to start moving forward, because we need to, we cannot delay this. It's very, very important for us to be able to move forward, inshallah. So on your side is just the important question, to make the decision whether you want to join or not, and then the support will be offered as much as I'm able to, and as much as our team is able to, and as much as the experts are able to. And I think for now, it's just important to go through the motions, go through the process, and then we'll take it from there, inshallah. I hope that answered all the questions, inshallah. If there's nothing else, then I just want to see if there was any closing remarks that I needed to make that I maybe didn't cover. I think maybe just the last thing that I want to show you is that this is the black art book that I suggested. So you get one with black pages, and then you get one with white pages. And this is where basically I pasted the Vicegerency slides in terms of just having it in one space. And it's basically going to be my workbook that I'm going to paste all my slides in and do all my mastery classes content in, and all of those kind of things. And then I also just want to show you, this is the Productive Muslim book, which Layla posted in the groups a while ago for you to order. This is With a Heart in Mind, and this is the book that was mentioned earlier on, The 11 Qualities of the Prophet and How He Changed the World. So those are the books that we can, some of the books amongst many that we're going to be using, inshallah. If there's no other questions, then, okay, somebody's typing, so I'll wait for that one last question, inshallah. I apologize for taking so much of your time. Please forgive me. Ask Allah to make me better. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept from me, to keep me and make me sincere, not to keep me sincere, but to make me sincere, to always use me for His deen. I mean, so I feel that there was a lot of information that I shared with you this morning. You really need to take the time out to go through those last few slides of vision, the slides of goals, the slides of your purpose, the slides of revisiting your near, and to really just do your vision board. There's a lot of things that you need to do. The video will be available soon, inshallah. And in conclusion, whilst we're waiting for Sister Zina to type, finish, inshallah, our question, and we'll end off with our question, inshallah, is I need to ask you a very important rhetorical question. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala invited you here this morning. He gave you this powerful urge to be here. He is the one that sent you this nafahat. He is the one that sent you this beautiful spiritual breeze. And He is the one that wants to give you goodness. Imam al-Haddad, he says that the one who receives these spiritual breezes and he stands at the door and he doesn't enter it, he is a foolish one. So the question that I have to ask you today is, will you be foolish and turn around and walk away from this door, or will you enter it? سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. Before I greet you, I'll answer Zina's question. About 10 years ago, I realized that I need to be Allah's vicegerent on earth. And over this period, Allah allowed me to meet the necessary scholars and people to achieve my goal. It's a process, so it takes time, but Alhamdulillah, it's life-changing to know our purpose. Allahu Akbar. So it wasn't a question, it was a comment. Alhamdulillah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept. And really just, I cannot stress to you enough, if we enjoyed the class this morning, there are many, many ayat in the Quran that, just like that, it changes your life. Like that, it just gives you that light bulb moments. And ask yourself, like, what is more important? What is more important to you than seeking this knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed in front of you? And what is more important than you mastering your own self with excellence, and you serving your family, and you serving your colleagues and you serving your work and your career, and ultimately you serving and benefiting the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So again, I remind you, you are standing at the door, you have a huge decision to make. I ask of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide you in that decision, that it must be the best for you and the best for our ummah at large. This is really, I believe, this is groundbreaking stuff that we have embarked on and launched this morning, because imagine if each and every one of us that attended this morning, including myself, truly adopts vicegerency this morning and going forward, then this world is going to be a completely different place. And not only in terms of us as one individual, but in terms of the impact that we are able to have on our family. So the question is, do you want to live in pursuit of impact, or do you just want to live? سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.